45. Now we are to suggestive influences from the inside, brought on by oneself, are usually a product of accidental mental associations connected to sex, such as taking one's clothes off in order to sleep. At that moment, one might become conscious of one's own nakedness. Noticing the connection between nakedness and the nakedness in sex, one might be on the path toward arousal. Likewise, when one is getting a massage, changing clothes, or bathing. Therefore, in these obvious instances, and many not very obvious situations, we see that the mind makes connections. You follow the direction of the thoughts. You follow the direction of the thoughts from the first thought to sexual thoughts by means of related intermediary thoughts. Suggestive inputs generated from your own imagination and emotions have the same interplay with mental associations as do first thought to intermediary thoughts to sexual thoughts. I'll read that again. Threw me for a loop. Okay. Suggestive inputs generated from your own imagination and emotions have the same interplay with mental associations. Okay. So we're showing the connection between suggestive inputs generated from your own imagination or emotions or thoughts have the same interplay with mental associations as do first thought to intermediate thoughts to sexual thoughts. So it's the same thing. Suggestive inputs by your own body. Suggestive inputs by your own body could be generated from an accidental touch, moving, shaking, such as dancing, or by any other sensory engagement of any sensitive part of the body by a table or other object, person, or by oneself. Under the explanation, there are many thought pathways. That's what the thought pathways are, the intermediary thoughts that lead to sexual arousal. You might try to get control over your arousal in order to be not aroused without wanting to. Again, let me read that again. You might try to get control over your arousal in order to be not aroused without wanting to. You might achieve partial success for a while, and then you might all of a sudden become aroused without knowing exactly why. Do not be disappointed with yourself, because disappointment in this situation might give the impression that you have again done the same mistake. However, it is not quite so. In this instance, you blocked the onslaught of unwanted influences from one side, and they entered through another side. In addition, if the onslaughts to your mind use the same way, they may have used another technique, or they may have used the same technique with more potency. You must recognize that you are improving your blocking ability, and meanwhile, with each mistake, you are becoming conscious of how and in what various ways these unwanted influences make their way inside into your consciousness. Oh, this is so very important. Every mistake you make, meaning every time you get sexually aroused without wanting to, is a study method for you to figure out exactly how that happened so that it doesn't happen again. Every mistake that is made, every time there is an arousal and you don't know how it happens, Every time there's an arousal, that is an excellent opportunity for you to figure out what happened, like an investigator. How is it that I came to this arousal? Mysteriously. I want you to look on it as a very fantastically positive situation, because here it is, live, happening to you, and you want to figure out, it just happened. How did it happen? How did I get into this situation? What went on? So it's really positive. Don't think it as negative. It is absolutely positive, because influences have just come into your consciousness and you want to figure out how. It's excellent. Okay. Therefore, look at it positively, because truly you are making improvements. We know you really want to try to overcome this situation of fixation, and you're making progress. It is important not to become disheartened. Again, I state this because it is extremely important. Do not take this point lightly. Do not be disappointed with yourself. I am speaking intelligently with you. Use your intelligence. Notice that when you have guilt, you cannot think as clearly as when you do not have guilt. This guilt stops you from making progress. You might hit many setbacks and obstacles. Oh, we're in the nitty-gritty now. Meaning you get yourself, we're in the deep trenches here. We're giving you the inside scoop stuff. Showing you how it works. Okay. You might hit many setbacks and obstacles. What I mean is, once you start being aroused again, whether you follow through with the arousal or not, silence your mind enough to look really deeply as to what actually took place from the first instance to the moment of arousal. Okay. So, really deeply, you want to look really deeply as to what actually took place from the first instance to the moment of arousal. You must learn to see how one thought led to the next thought or series of thoughts, and then to the arousal. If you cannot remember your thoughts from the beginning, then it might be necessary to trace the thoughts backward from arousal to the beginning. Original initiating thought. If you are still having trouble remembering, then try remembering anything at all in any part of before, during, or after arousal. So, if you have trouble figuring out what's initiating thought started it, and what are the thoughts that led, the interconnecting thoughts to arousal. If you cannot figure this thing out, try go backwards. Go from, see, because this arousal, once arousal is done, your consciousness comes back to normal, and you are able to think very, very clearly. So, but just a second ago you were in arousal, so you're very close to, time-wise, to the thoughts that you were thinking. So you could think of those thoughts, those last thoughts that you were thinking, and trace them back to what thoughts before that you had before then, and what thoughts before that, and what thoughts before that. Eventually, you might find the initial thought. If you have trouble figuring this thing out from the end, try imagining, try to think of any parts that you can think of. You may think of here, you may think of here, you may think of here, you may think of that. Good. And from any point that you could remember, try to expand forward somewhat and backwards somewhat. And from any point and all points that you can figure out. Anything you can remember, try to see how that thought led to what other thought going forward, or what that thought came from what thoughts. How is it that you thought of that? See? And so you might start expanding your awareness of, okay, so you might think of, I don't remember all, I remember here. Okay, from here I remember this. Oh, okay, and I remember this, and also I remember something extension here. And, I know, the thought here in the middle, and that now you have discovered how this thought goes all the way here. Now let's see. Do this from many points of remembrance to see if you could piece together, that is to identify, the first initiating cause of all the thoughts and their thought pathways to arousal. If you have trouble doing this completely, then prepare yourself mentally now by deciding to be mentally alert. Okay, by deciding to be mentally alert. The next time that you are getting aroused. Okay, I'm in a public place, people are walking by, so I want to have them having a little distance because they may misunderstand what the heck I'm here doing, talking about this stuff. So if you have trouble doing this completely, that is figuring it out from initial thought, middle thoughts, and end thought, then prepare yourself mentally now. You gotta prepare yourself mentally now. By deciding, you gotta decide to be mentally alert the next time that you are getting aroused. So, next time you're getting aroused, right now, you gotta mentally prepare. You gotta decide. You're creating a connection now when you're deciding. You're deciding that when you get aroused, you're going to be mentally alert. And how do you do that? By thinking of it right now. By thinking that, making a connection between arousal and alert thinking, because you want to figure out what is going on. What am I thinking when I'm aroused? So that's what you're thinking. So now you're going to decide to be mentally alert. You don't want to be unconscious. You want to be mentally alert. You want to be aware. And it's fine. It doesn't go against your arousal. So actually, it's actually very good to be. It's very easy to be mentally alert and aware when that situation occurs. Also, you will do this when you're in mid-arousal or in any stage of the arousal. For example, the situation might happen very fast. You finally find yourself aroused, and you're in mid-arousal now, and then you remember, good, I have to be mentally alert. Good, you forgot to be mentally alert from the beginning, but you're in mid-arousal now, and you can be conscious and aware. Good, you remembered. Good. You could be conscious. This thought might occur to you right after arousal is complete and you have expelled or you have completed action, and now you're alert. You're like, I have to be mentally alert. Good. You're practicing to be mentally alert. What was I thinking? You're thinking. What was I thinking? You're identifying. So I'll read that again. Okay. Prepare yourself mentally now by deciding to be mentally alert the next time that you are getting aroused, when you are already in mid-arousal or in any stage of the arousal. Try to think clearly about the thoughts that triggered it. You are more likely able to remember in the moment of arousal because the thoughts ran through your head just moments earlier. If you still cannot do it, okay, then practice being aware of where your thoughts arise from throughout the day on various other non-sexual topics. It could be about ice cream or bicycle riding, etc. So I want you to be mentally aware, alert, right now. And when you get involved in an activity, whatever it is, opening a book, shutting a book, going to the fridge, seeing a movie, whatever you do, walk here, go there, whatever you do, be mentally alert while you make the decisions that you do. How is it that what thoughts are occurring in your mind when you get involved in an activity? What thoughts occur to you when you're thinking of whatever, of ice cream, of this, that, whatever it is? Again, you want to be aware of the initial thought, the intermediary thought, as the thought pathways, and the end thought. You want to be conscious of why you do the things that you do during the day, whatever it is, all of it. Practice, You don't have to kill yourself over it, meaning you have to suffer. Do some practice so that you're mentally alert. You get really good at it. Like for example, one day you might be doing something and suddenly the thought occurs to you, why am I doing this? And then you go, let me think of, how did I get into this? I was talking with my friend, and my friend said this, and I went to the television, and a thought occurred to me, I should maybe try this. And so you want to become aware. It could be about ice cream or bicycle riding, etc. Next, when you get good at it with other topics, you can apply it to sex. To become aware of how your thoughts arise regarding sex. So you practice learning how your thoughts arise using other topics, and then you get good at it when you're in sexual arousal. Practice this. It is vitally important for you to know how your thoughts generate, meaning it is vitally important for you to know how your thoughts come about. And what thought pathways they take. It is important for you to practice this, enabling you to apply it. This book is not about knowledge only. It is about applicable knowledge. These methods were applied and the results were outstanding. Therefore, apply the knowledge. Example W is reaching for something. Example X is red car and red dress. You have any questions about that? Let me know. Example Y is mental defenses penetrated by unusualness.